Hey guys, before we start the video, I just want to say a thank you to Simon and TTH for supporting the content on this channel. You guys are awesome. Alright guys, before we get into the content of this, let's talk structure. And when I say structure, I mean we're going to talk about how all of our scripts are going to communicate with one another. We're going to have a centralized script called the player manager. And for all intents and purposes, this is going to be the thing that will basically handle most of the update methods, if not all of them, and it will connect all of the other scripts together. Think of it like your hub for central control. It's going to tell you when the player is falling, when he's parrying, when he's rolling and sprinting, etc, etc. So like all the flag type stuff. And on the outer ring, we're going to have our input handler and animation handler communicating with it, and the player locomotion, the player attacker, the player inventory, and the player stats respectively. So the player locomotion will control all functionality that handles the player moving, like falling and such. The player attack script will handle the player actually performing attacks. The player inventory, the player's inventory, and the player's stats will be like the player's levels in game, etc. The animation handler handles performing animations that these scripts may communicate with it to use, and the input handler detects when we're using inputs to use these functionalities. But they all meet on the player manager, or at least that is the goal. We can't differ from this goal, but the more we keep on to this goal, the easier our code will be to read long term, because we have some form of structure and organization, and that is very important in the late stages of the project when you start having lots of scripts, lots of functions and interwoven things all connecting together. It is very important to refactor or revise and try to simplify what you've done as much as you can and just stay on top of it. So every 5 to 10 episodes, we're going to go back and we're going to do what we can to simplify what we have written out so far. And you may do this a bit differently than me, that's fine. I encourage you to do it whichever way makes the most sense to you. I'm going to show you how I do it and how I like to do it, and if that works for you too, then fantastic. Alright guys, I'll try not to move too fast here so you can see what's going on, because we're going to do a bit of jumping around from script to script here. So first, let's take the is interacting here in the input handler, and we're going to bring that on over to the player manager. I would call this a flag type bull. It tells you when the player is doing something. In this case, it's interacting with something. So we're going to move input handler dot on the is interacting here, because now it's just on the script, and we're going to save that. Okay, what else can we pull over here next? So we're going to need the camera handler over there too on the awake method, and we're also going to need this fixed update method. Okay, I want to put all update methods on the player manager, so let's take this over next. So just copy the content here. Actually, we can copy everything here if we want, because we're taking the whole method. Copy that and jump back over here to the player manager. We're going to paste that right below update, just down here. And then we're going to scroll back up. Jump to the input handler again. We're going to take the camera handler over and bring that on the player manager as well. Take the variable and the awake method. Just basically, calling the variable on awake as normal. So just the exact same thing you had on the other script, but put it here on the player manager. Why that happened there? Camera handler. There we go. Okay. Save that again. Not sure what happened down here. Didn't paste the fixed update, just what was inside of it. I must have never copied the whole thing. Okay, so just put fixed update here if you made the same mistake I did, but you probably didn't. Drop this in here. Okay, and now the mouse X and mouse Y are giving us an error, and that's because we need to call them from the input handler. So we already have the variable up here for input handler, so we're just going to say input handler dot mouse X and input handler dot mouse Y, and that will correct our problem. And that looks much nicer sitting on the player manager, and I'm very pleased with that. So save that. Looks good. Everything's looking good there. Okay, next on the player locomotion script, let's give a look through here now and see what we need to move over. Everything looks fine in the start. Yeah, that's all necessary for this script. Okay, the update method though, we can take everything out of here and move it to the player manager's update method. So we can actually just copy the content here and then delete this update method altogether and go back to the player manager and paste the contents of that update method in this update method. And now we only have one update method running at a time, and that takes a bit of strain off the code too. Not that there was much strain on it. So next we're going to call a variable for the player locomotion, and we're going to declare that on awake. Actually, start's fine. I have camera on the awake. I just like calling the camera first. Honestly, either works, but right now we're going to call it start. Excellent. Player locomotion is sprinting. We're going to say delta equals time dot delta time. Whoops, float delta. And now we're going to say down here on the player or handle movement, we're going to say player locomotion dot handle movement, and we're going to say player locomotion dot handle rolling and sprinting. Okay, there's still a bit more we can do with this, so let's keep moving. Our fixed update is looking fine, but now we're going to add a late update. And I'm going to use this late update specifically for resetting flags, and I'm also going to throw on the is sprinting equals b input on there too, just because I just like putting on a late update. Personally, it's kind of a preference. It'll work anywhere, but I find it just makes everything look a lot neater, and it's nice to reset your flags on the late frame, in my opinion, but this is just personal preference. It will work on either. Let's save that. Okay, next let's jump over on the animation handler. The animation handler, we're going to make a player manager variable. I'm going to call that on the initialize function because that's called somewhere else. Now on animator move, we just need to put player manager.isInteracting instead of what was there before, and save that, and we're all good to go. We can actually make these non-public too. So the input handler and player locomotion do not need to be public. The animator must stay public though, because that's called somewhere else. Looks good. Let's save that. Okay, I'm taking this is sprinting here bull here off of player locomotion, and I'm putting that on player manager because that to me is a flag, and I want everything on the player manager, like is sprinting, is rolling, is parrying, is being parried, is backstabbing, etc. in the future. So we're gonna make a header for player flags and put that under there. Now this is going to give us some errors because we moved it, so we're going to correct those momentarily. Go down here and double click them. And the first one is on the player locomotion script. So we need to put down player manager.issprinting equals true. Next one is over here on the player manager script. Oh, I don't need to put player manager. I don't know if it's on the player manager script. Yeah, we're on the player manager script. I'll just erase that. So just is sprinting equals input handler.beinput. Back here, I think we need to create a variable for player manager. Yes, we do. Okay, so just create a variable for the player manager and call that on start or wake. I'm choosing to call it on start again, but you may put it on either. Excellent, save that. Okay, the last one is here under the player locomotion again. And we need to put player manager.issprinting. And save that. And we should be good to go here now. How's that? Oh, that looks so nice. Now, the only things on the player locomotion script are the functions to handle the player moving and nothing else. And that to me looks very nice, very easy to read. I'm enjoying this a lot. Let's call this movement stats, just be a bit more descriptive here. I'm just being picky now, but you should call these things whatever you want, whatever makes it clear to read for you. Do things that make them the easiest for you, unless you're working with a couple of people or a team, in which case, make it as easy to read as you can. Making naming conventions really easy to read. The reason why I don't use shortcuts is because I find shortcuts are great when you work alone, but if you're trying to convey the point to somebody else, having it written as clearly as possible is just a lot nicer on the eyes and a lot easier to understand. Okay, I think we're good, so let's save that and jump in the game here and give it a test. And yep, our functionality still works just as it did before. Everything is fine, except now our code, in my opinion, sits in a place that is a lot neater and a lot easier to read. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Don't forget to drop a like. It does help get the video around. And thank you for the support to my Patreons. And thank you for checking out this video. I'll see you guys in the next one, where the subject matter is falling and walking upstairs. And real quick, guys, thank you to Nico, Simon, Steven, and TTH for your support on Patreon. It is very much appreciated, guys. I'll see you all in the next video.